So with that now, what is the international view on the constitutional journey that Bangladesh is going through now? The first and the foremost concern of all this constitutional debate is how Bangladesh is going to organize its institutions, constitutional institutions. That is one of the major things the international community and the body would like to see. And we know that Human Rights Commissioner was very deeply involved with at least with one short investigative process for which they have given us conclusive evidence or statement to the effect that the Hasina regime did in fact carry out crimes against humanity in the form of mass murders. That then takes us to the aspect of legal applications of this finding. How are we going to apply that? Now, law is not to be easily taken and not to be reluctantly legislated. Once you take a law, you must have the intention to apply it. And once you declare the process of enforcing the law, you must apply it with your full force. Now that we have a finding from a neutral international body that there had been crimes against humanity that were carried out in the country, and we know the culprit, and there is afoot at the moment as we speak, a few trials, at least two of the trials are afoot, going on at the International Crimes Tribunal in Bangladesh. How are these going to be judicially accountable? The international concern is through these constitutional institutions and enhancing their capacities, how are we going to conform with the international norms of judicial accountability? Is the trial that we are holding is going to be one accepted at least by the international community, the judicial observers, the human rights observers? That one concern. The decisions made by the tribunal, will they be properly and effectively challenged at the appeal court? And whether those accused have a chance to represent themselves in those courts. So this is one level of institutional challenge. The other challenge that the international community wants to see and actually want some assurance about is the political process. Will there be a transition to a political government from this government whose legitimacy is at best questionable, because there is a reference from the article, under the Article 106, and of course I will plead my ignorance in my defense that I have not seen or read the reference sent to the court or the judgment sent by the court. And I do not think that many people have seen or read those two documents. Once the political government comes in, what will happen to the contracts, the treaties that this government has entered into? Will there be political legitimization by the next political government of this government now, this interim government? What will happen to the power contracts, for example, with all these companies? What will be the legal status of those? These are, I mentioned institutions, now I mentioned the process of politics and the transition. And then the other aspect, the protection of the individuals. The international body, they can protect themselves. They have mechanics to enforce their interest. Corporations who have gone into private government, they also have mechanics. For example, if you want to challenge the Hasina regime's contract with Oracle, which is absolutely 99.98% in favor of Oracle, against the interests of Bangladeshi government, you have to challenge it in court of England. So they have some mechanics of protection. For example, if an individual, I give you two examples, if I may be allowed to mention names. We know how a major Zia of Bangladesh Army was trapped into an environment where he was sold to the international community as evidence that there is organized terrorism that has made its way into the dissident forces. And that then worked as a security guarantee for the government from the Western powers. Do whatever you want to clean that. Now he wants to go back to Bangladesh, and there is simply a non-responsive government who does not even respond to any request that he is making. Can he then challenge all these judicial process, the 3 death sentences that he was given? Can he challenge those? The Facebook celebrity, one of the powerful forces behind the student revolution, who lives in France, Pinaky Bhattacharjee, can he return to Bangladesh and fight his court cases? These are cases of famous people. But then there are cases of not very famous people that we as lawyers in England, in America, in Australia, New Zealand, have had to gain political asylum, who do not have political power. They're simply foot soldiers of the parties opposing Hasina. And they were marked out. For various reasons, they were marked out because they would be attacked wherever they're found. But they do not have the power and the capacity and the parties backing behind them. What will be the mechanics of protection for the individuals who do not have political support, who do not have institutional belonging and support, who are not acknowledged as being a serious actor or serious enough interest for the country by the government? What will happen to those individuals? These aspects were not very well ventilated into the international arena. So the people who observe the political constitutional process that has, the discussions with the political parties that has taken place in Bangladesh, a number of them, at least I counted 30 meetings. I'll be corrected by Barrister Imran Siddiqui, but I think there were 30 meetings so far that I counted of this commission. These are not very well ventilated into Western press. There are no any official writing or opinion pieces written on the progress and the process by members or people who have taken interest in the process. In the UK, we have party political leaders, party political intellectuals who write in the international and national press about their position. But that was not the case in Bangladesh. Some people claiming, well, I again beg forgiveness for this word, because they pass themselves as intellectuals but nothing more than party propagandists. Intellectual constitutional documents of those significance, if these are written by propagandists, then of course they do not carry weight with the international arena, international stakeholders. And by international stakeholders, we only have one sort of stakeholders: development partners and people who are political interested. There is only one party, one country that is singularly politically interested in Bangladesh, that is India. The rest of the world are, in various degrees and forms, our development partners. Whatever politics comes, and they are in the form of development economics, they are in the form of one shape or the other, have something to do with the economy and the relief they send to our country. For example, the political interest that America has is simply mostly designed, directed towards addressing the Burma Act in the southeast part of the country that we have, and access to the sea, all those kind of things. So they have a financial backing to their political interest, whereas the neighbor does not have any financial interest in our country as such, apart from maybe political or other things. So there are two distinct natures of international interest. Those are not, I feel, are not addressed in the constitutional debate in the country. How we engage with development partners and how we engage in regional politics. Geopolitical shifting in the region, yes, I think this was in the back of the mind of all the people who are involved, but this is not a subject that has taken any open discussion. In terms of the fourth point that I would make, it is this. In course of an existing parliament, we have issues debated in the parliament. We do not have the parliament. So that debate has now mostly moved into the social space in Facebook, in Bangladeshi case, mostly Facebook. X, another platform, are not that much utilized. That debate has moved into some articles in some level, very limited extent, in newspapers. And the other issues are other aspects of engagement, public engagement, are the local TV talk shows. And then, of course, close to the parliament that we have now is the political party attending the Foreign Service the State Guest House, Jamuna, to discuss the work of the Constitutional Reform Commission. That is the closest thing to parliament we have. So that debate, the engagement of the mass people did not happen. What the question I would ask, and I would want to know and understand, is how that public engagement was ensured in this constitutional debate. On one spectrum, you have a major party, BNP. On the other spectrum, you have the latest newborn party, NCP. And there's wide range and spectrum of parties in between. How a balance was struck in proportionate representation of these parties. And since I mentioned the word proportionate representation, I also raised this, that there is a lack of understanding how proportional representation is being played out in the discussion, because it has an endless number of combination and commutation. How many ways you can represent proportionate, the mathematics can work. For example, there is an existing proportional representation system in the existing constitution. Based on the number of MPs, you decide what number of the 50 reserved MPs or 80 MPs you would have. There is a proportionate voting system already in our existing constitution. How that can be expanded? Whether would that depend on the number of MPs, or would it depend on the number of votes the lower tier parliament or representative gets? I have not seen a wide range of discussion on any sort of combination of these proportional representation. There seems to be only one discussion about that how many votes or MP you get at the lower tier, that must be the case in the upper tier. Whether I or not I am in favor of an upper tier, that's another matter. But in whatever combination we have it, there was a lack of clarity in the discussion about what options of proportionate representation we are talking about. The numbers and mathematics of it were not present in the discussion, in any of the discussions that I followed and I heard. So these are my observations, and with that, I will leave for the panel to speak.
Thank you very much, Barrister Afzal Tami, for his precious delivery.